welcome to the latest episode of Rallen's Rant. Today I'm delighted to be joined by recent World Cup winner Malcolm Marx. So thanks a lot for coming on the show, Malcolm, firstly. And how are you getting on these days?
So first of all, thanks for having me, Richie. I really appreciate it. It's been obviously tough and challenging times for everybody around the world, fortunately I'm back home now, which I'm pretty happy about. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that are struggling really badly due to the COVID situation, I think I'm just fortunate to be back with my family.
Yeah, good to hear. And to just kind of focus now onto just say your career side of things, and I always ask this when I've guests on, especially rugby players, is like looking back at your early days, like at what stage did you start or first pick up a rugby ball? And like, was there maybe a particular reason that made you start in the first place? Was there a moment? Was there a certain person that kind of gravitated you towards the sport of rugby?
When I was in primary school in grade 5, I started playing rugby, and I was enjoying it and I loved the game and all of that. But then when I watched the 2007 World Cup, when South Africa won it in France, that sort of gave me the motivation to want to sort of play rugby and become a professional rugby player, just watching how those guys played and what they did for the country as well. I think that was a pretty big motivation for me to start playing rugby.
And say at an early age, like there at say 2007, that was obviously a team that was captained by the famous John Smith, and even had say Bismarck on the bench. Like early on, did you see yourself, okay, I'm going to be a hooker, try following the footsteps of those kind of heroes, so to speak, or did you kind of float around with different positions early on?
I was sort of in different positions. I was mainly a loose forward going up from primary school into high school, and then in my matric year I ended up moving to 2, and obviously watching those guys throughout the years, I knew exactly who I'd want to play like because of the performances they produced on the field. So when I moved to 2, those were the guys that I looked up to and aspired to play like.
And you played through the younger ranks, Malcolm, and it eventually led to you playing for the under-20s with the Springboks. But I'm just wondering, was there any particular moment or stage during that kind of progression up the ranks? Was there a stage or even a person that kind of came to you and said, listen, this could be a potential career for you. You could really go far as a rugby player? Or were you kind of just happy to go with the flow, go through the motions, go through college or university? Or was it very early on established that you wanted to become a pro?
So when I went to high school, I obviously realized how much the 2007 World Cup influenced me to want to become a professional rugby player. And my high school coach made the suggestion for me to maybe move to 2, and I tried it, and I really started enjoying it. And to be honest, I haven't looked back a day in my life. I really enjoy that position. Obviously, I'm learning a lot as well, and I'm obviously just trying to better my skill set every single training session and every single game. I haven't looked back on going back to loose forward ever since I started playing 2.
And like when you had to make those decisions where you were going to fully commit to being a rugby player, and as you said, you didn't look back, I always ask at that stage, especially say in university, was there ever an alternative? Like what was your plan B if rugby didn't work out at that stage? Was there a kind of a work, like a job you wanted to go down, a certain sector you wanted to, or as you said, was it just purely my focus is on rugby, and if it works, it works. If not, then I'll deal with plan B later on?
Yeah, so I went to a university called UJ. Well, I was contracted at the Lions, and I went to a university called UJ, and I obviously had to study there in order to play for the varsity. I got into a sporting course sort of at the varsity, but rugby sort of took up most of my time, so it was kind of tough to balance the 2 and actually study. So I just said to myself, this is a career that I want, and this is what I want to do. So I'm going to put all my emphasis onto rugby and try and make it in the rugby industry. And obviously, I had my doubts. Obviously, knowing how many good rugby players come through the country and schoolboys, and how many guys were already playing such great professional rugby for the franchises, I obviously doubted myself, but I sort of got over that and sort of just started working hard. And I have got an industry that I really enjoy, which is property. But at the moment, for me, it's just been all about rugby.
Malcolm, you're saying that it was kind of a confidence thing, that you really wanted to build up the confidence and hopefully become the rugby player you hope to be. And I suppose the first kind of year you came on the scene was the 2017 Super Rugby season. You kind of burst on, and the Lions were playing great rugby that year as well. Like, was that just a lot of individual work behind the scenes, both on and off the pitch by yourself? Or was there maybe a coach, a fellow player that gave you that confidence to go, you know what, this is professional level, but you're more than capable of stepping up and being able to perform here?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of everything. I think the people that I had around me in the side and the coaches, and obviously my family and friends that supported me off the field. I think it was just a balance of everything that helped me sort of get over the fact that I wouldn't think that I would make it, or I didn't think that I would become a professional rugby player. And I sort of just started believing in myself a bit more and started backing myself a bit more. And and the coach, having the backing of the coaches and my fellow players, was just a big motivator for me, to sort of start believing in myself and knowing that if I work hard and I do my job, I would be able to become a player that one day I aspire to be.
And you're saying there that hoping to become the player you aspire to be one day, as you said, and even as an Irish fan looking at South African rugby, they've always had quality twos. Like, since I've followed it in the last 20 years, there's always been a quality hooker wearing that number 2 jersey. Yeah. When you say burst on the scene there in 2017, do you feel like they've just come off a World Cup, really? It's a kind of transition period, new coaches in. Do you start thinking about international career, or were you still at that moment thinking, listen, just be consistent club game week in, week out? Or did you have aspirations to immediately try and get in the mix for the international setup?
So during that stage, I was sort of focused on just trying to be as consistent as possible for the franchise I was playing for, and obviously putting in good performances, or trying to put in good performances every single week. And I think that the Springbok, or the national side, was a motivation for me to work hard and carry on putting in that hard work. But yeah, at that stage, I'll be honest, I was just trying to perform the best of my ability for my franchise.
Okay, and like, Malcolm, was there ever a time, and as I said, you were voted maybe player of the season at the Lions Club, and you've received a few other individual honours, but maybe even in 2016 or maybe at the start of 2017, was there ever, as you said, you kind of had to sometimes battle with confidence, and as you said, it was all about self-belief and having the support of family, friends and coaches, but was there ever a challenging moment where, whether it was competition with another player, whether it was an injury or something early on, that you really had to overcome, and then when you looked back on, you think, oh, that was actually a really important moment for me to come to the other side of it as a better player, a better person?
During that stage, I was fortunate enough. During the 2016-2017 seasons, I was fortunate enough to not get any major injuries. I had one or two injuries that kept me out for maybe a month or two, but that was pretty much it. And I think those played a toll. And like, obviously, when you're injured, you've got a lot of time to think and reflect, and where you think you could be better. And obviously that was a motivation. But I think the main thing is, for me, is the competition in South Africa, which is so healthy. I think, well, it's healthy for me, I feel, because there's no room for you to become complacent, and you've always got to be on top of your game and working hard to make sure that you're performing up there with the guys that are playing the best rugby in the country.
When you eventually get that call to go into a Springbok camp before a big tournament or a test series, like, I think Alistair was the coach back then. Like, how did that come about? Did you get the email? Did you get a phone call? Like, how big of a moment was that for you personally when you found out that not necessarily you're going to make your first cap, but you were finally going to be involved and given the opportunity to potentially get your first cap for South Africa?
Yeah, so we were actually playing in the playoffs of the Super Rugby, and obviously the coach at the time obviously didn't want us to get this massive shock when the media released the sort of squad that would be together, the Springbok squad that would have been together. So he sort of mentioned it to players that he had been told that will be in the squad, just to make sure that we're not shocked and focusing on that right away instead of focusing on the job at hand, which was the playoffs during the Super Rugby. So that's how I found out. And obviously, I was extremely grateful, and I was over the moon. But I knew I still had to do a job and perform for the franchise.
During that kind of the first maybe year or two when you enter in the Springbok camp, performances were kind of mixed. Say if you compare them to what they are now, you've got a real strong squad, a foundation there that is going to lead now towards a line series in hopefully several months' time. But before that, say pre Razzie's arrival, there was kind of a battle for consistency across the board where you were looking for kind of consistent performances and it wasn't really happening. And do you think that was down just to the makeup of the squad, or what was the difference between obviously being in a squad that eventually won a World Cup and say pre-World Cup in those kind of 2017, 2018 seasons?
Obviously it was a tough stage for us, a tough period during those years, and I think I can't really pinpoint one specific thing that made the difference. I mean, I'm sure you probably know Rafi and how he was when he was at Munster with Coach Jock, and they just all round understand everything. There's components of the game before they came in that I didn't really understand, and why they were so important. And I mean, I think the clarity. I think the main thing for me was clarity. The clarity on everything, on and off the field, what we were doing, while we were doing it, and I just think all around, all the coaching staff. When Rafi came in, everybody was on the same page, and not saying that previous years they weren't on the same page. That's why I said I can't really pinpoint one specific thing, but the thing that stood out for me was the clarity in everything that we did.
Yeah, and as I said, we know Razzie well from his time in Munster, and the one thing he did do with Munster, and Munster weren't kind of the European powerhouse they used to be when he took over, but when he came in, a lot of players just said, listen, he simplified things, he got us all on the same page, brought back the identity of Munster, which was obviously that physical side, that kind of never say die attitude. And once Razzie came in, it was such a short period where he came in, and then obviously the World Cup prep would have started, and he did loads of things. There was the captaincy changed. He brought back some of the foreign players playing in Europe, even things like bringing Shout Brits out of retirement, convincing him to come back and play and be a squad member for the World Cup. As a player going through all that, where you see these changes happening, did that kind of, obviously a new face coming in, it does tend to excite people and boost morale immediately, even before results have an impact. But with all these changes taking place, did it take long before players like yourself and players within the squad believe that, we can turn this around and we can go on and win a World Cup?
I don't think it took too long. For me personally, I didn't. Obviously, sitting through meetings and understanding what he was saying, it made it very clear that where his passion was, and that goes for all the coaches as well. Their passion was obviously for the Springboks and South African rugby, and it didn't take me long to sort of start believing in the plan. I sort of sat in the meetings and I would say probably immediately understood what was going on and believed in it.
Did he make, because say as an Irish fan looking at say South African rugby, the blueprint's always been really disciplined side, strong set piece, very, very physical, great kicking game, and they were just kind of the components that, whether it was all the way back at the Line series with Stain and the likes, or even some of the better teams like in 2007. But that was always kind of the characteristics of a South African side, and it seemed that Razzie came back, and now obviously there was technical elements to it as well, but it seemed like the basics, and even especially say if you look at say the scrum, that was something that some people appeared maybe could be a weakness with South Africa in maybe 2017, 2018, that suddenly became a strength. And some people may have said, oh, their kicking game may not be as strong as it once was. Then suddenly that became as strong. So was there a real kind of basis and kind of focus on getting back to what South Africans were best at and just focusing on that and perfecting that, and then obviously using that as a strength as weeks went by?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, watching all the games, and in the past that was always the strength of South Africa, what you just mentioned. And I think Rassie or the coaching staff brought that back, that identity back to South Africa. And I think while we worked hard on those aspects that we might have not been as good at, we still worked on the aspects that we thought we were quite good at. So it was an all round sort of performance from everybody, and everybody was just willing to get better. So all the finer details and everything, I think, just played a bit of a bigger role, knowing what we were doing while we were doing certain things, and the finer detail maybe in the kicking game or in the set piece, and I think those aspects were sort of brought back during that period.
And say, for instance, when you build up to that World Cup in Japan, obviously there was a lot of, when New Zealand naturally were the favourites, but there was a lot of teams coming into good form. You had England, you had Wales. As an Irish fan, we were kind of hit and miss, but we were still a threat, especially with the year we had previously. You were in the conversation as well. Like, just say when you went into that camp and the games start to take place, like, was Rassie very much a game-by-game type coach? Was he just purely focusing week by week, or was he always talking about the overall goal, which was to eventually win the World Cup? Like, how did he shape the dream or shape the goal during the World Cup? Was it very much stay humble, stay grounded, stay focused in the now, or did he create this big kind of story, this big picture that would hopefully inspire you guys to go on and eventually win it?
There obviously was a big picture, and I mean, obviously going into the World Cup, I think every side goes in there to want to win the tournament. And I think like there was an aspect that was the goal, but I think every single game it was game by game. Literally, once you analyze or once you're training to play an opponent, the very next day it was sort of watching your game from the previous day or whatever. So you watch that game, and then straight after you've watched that game, you look at where you can improve and what you think you can work on as a player. From after that, it moves on to the next side that we were playing against, and making sure that we analysed and did our work correctly on and off the field to make sure we were as best prepared as we could for every game that came.
And how did the impact of, as I said, you look at maybe the likes of Dwayne Vermeulen or even say Sjoerd Brits, what type of impact did those players that maybe had gone out of the squad for a year or two and then kind of were brought back in, like say, even if you look at say someone in your position, like say Brits, what type of impact did he have? Because it was maybe clear early on for someone like himself that maybe he wasn't in the match day squads 23 when everyone was fit. But yes, Rassie kept saying how important his role would have been to push others to lend his experience. So like for individuals like himself, like how important was that, even say for you personally, because you were, you've hopefully got 10, 15 years left in your career, but here was a guy who had pretty much completed his career, was on his last journey. How important was it to have players like that to train with and bounce ideas off?
Yeah, no, for me it was extremely important, obviously, to learn from a guy like Skulk and all the guys that have got the experience. It was, for me, it was unbelievable, and just to learn and pick up on small things and like small things that they do on and off the field. I think their roles in the side were unbelievable, and for me as a player and watching a guy like Skulk when I was younger, and obviously when he was at Saracens, you sort of want to learn from a guy like that. And I mean, fortunately, he was able to teach as well. Like he was able to give advice on certain things that you weren't sure about. So. Yeah, for me personally, I thought it was good for me. So just to pick up on small things that I don't really know that he's picked up over the years that he had played, and I just think unbelievable guy, and all the guys were unbelievable guys. It's just sculpting in my specific position. Obviously, being able to learn from a guy like that was great.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. I hear he's a very, very good guy to have around squads and whatnot. And one of the other introductions on the coaching side of things, it kind of made a bit of publicity over here, was Felix Jones, and he came in late in the process of the World Cup for you guys. And just from yourself, like I know maybe he could have, we're not 100% sure exactly what he covered in the coaching side of things. What sort of impact did Felix have when he joined the squad? Like, was he straight into the thick of it? Did he kind of mix and match with regards to his inputs, or was he very much, he came in straight away and had a immediate and positive impact on the squad?
Yeah, he obviously he came in and had a good impact on the squad. I mean, his attention to detail and obviously all the work that they put in behind the scenes, you could see it immediately. And I think that was good as well. Like all the video work and like I said previously, all the things that they saw on videos that could make an impact and what we could do better and what we should do against certain sides. You could pick that up immediately that he had done his homework and everything from the first day that we met him. So yeah, I think he had a great impact on the side.
And as the World Cup went on, it gets obviously to the knockout stages. You have your great win over Japan, who, as the Irish found out, they were flying high. And during that time, it kind of became apparent where that we could see what the starting 15 was. And you personally, you found yourself, and with the 16 jersey, as I'm sure you would have preferred the two, but you had the 16 jersey on your back for the majority of the competition. But like the likes of yourself, even say Vincent Koch, who many would rate as one of the best, if not the best tight head in Europe. You had Eve also as well, the likes of Lowe as well, and staying on the bench. He created this, the media branded it even over here in Ireland as the bomb squad. And just from yourself, as you said, and even if you look at, say, Eddie Jones with England, he always said, listen, it's a 23-man game. The days of where you just picked your best 15 and just hoped for the best for 80 minutes, they're well and truly gone. But like from a personal level, obviously there was great disappointment, but then I'm sure there was obviously, you know, a bit of joy, a bit of proudness of being involved in such a good team during a World Cup. But how did you take being benched after being South Africa's, say, number one hooker for a year or two? Like, was it a tough transition at the start, or did you kind of speak to Razzie and he kind of gave you a role that you could really kind of gravitate towards and feel like it was ultimately the best for the team?
Yeah, obviously it was tough in the beginning, but it took me like a day to get over that. And, you know, at the end of the day, the main thing was the team, what would be best for the team. And that's all that I thought about. If that's the role that I've been given, I'm going to do that role the best that I can so that I can contribute as much as I can towards the team. So for me, it wasn't really a thing where I was upset. Once I actually started thinking about it, I actually thought to myself, don't be selfish. It's a team sport. It's not going to be one by one individual. So I sort of put my pride aside and I sort of just did my role, or what I thought my role was, to the best of my ability.
Okay. And did you feel was that very much part of the plan with Razzie? And you saw obviously in the final, it made a huge impact off the bench with the likes of yourself and Koch and the previously mentioned guys I mentioned there. But like, was that very much part of the plan where you had a side set out for 45, 50 minutes, and then rather than maybe the bench coming on to see out the game, the mentality of the bench was to come on and absolutely even destroy the opposition if we were winning by 5 points, we want to end up winning the game by 15, 20 points. Was that very much the mentality of the people who were wearing the number 16 to 23?
I think we obviously, like I said, we obviously all knew our roles, and we obviously knew that if we do get onto the pitch, we have to make an impact, regardless. So I think we all just wanted to make an impact once we did get the opportunity to get onto the field, and I think all of us, obviously, they call us the bomb squad. So we were just trying to get on the field and make the biggest impact that we could. And not individually, obviously collectively as a team, and obviously falling in line with what the team needed.
Yeah, even just before I maybe touch on the final preparations, I think it wouldn't do the man justice. But yeah, there was obviously a lot of kind of hype around the captaincy side of things with yourselves. And there's a huge amount of history within the country. It's been going on for years and years. And, you know, Khaleesi has been deemed, every interview I've seen him do, it's somewhat inspirational. Razzie or any of the fellow players, whenever you speak about him, you hold him in the highest regards. And that's also even opponents from other other teams internationally. But like, what type of role did he have to play? Because I remember reading John Smith's book, and like being a South African captain, it's not kind of the same as being the Irish captain or the England captain. There's so many different aspects to a South African squad. There's a lot of political issues on in the country, both on and off the pitch. Like, how important was the role he played with kind of making sure the squad, as you said, everyone was selfless, everyone was very much invested in the team, and we're in this together, focusing on the one goal?
Yeah, no, I think Sia's a great captain, and you obviously saw it when he was at the Stormers, and I think during the World Cup or when he became the South African captain, there wasn't any doubt about anything. To be honest, we knew what a good captain he was when he played for the Stormers, and we knew how he played. So I think everybody sort of helped the guys, the likes of Dwayne and all the guys with quite a bit of experience. I think obviously helped, but I think Sia led the side extremely well, and I thought his performances on the field sort of backed up his words off the field. But yeah, from the word go, I think everybody just stood behind him and supported, and which I thought was great.
Yeah, no, it really seemed to be the case with regards to people just getting in behind him, and even the public, the supporters, really kind of gravitated towards him as a captain and as kind of the spearhead figure of the team. And as the World Cup goes by, I'm not going to mention much about Ireland because that obviously isn't something to write home about, but with yourselves, you overcome, as I said, Japan. You come up against a Wales side that a lot of people tipped, especially with Gatland as their head coach, capable of going all the way, especially in knockout rugby. And just say the week or two leading up, say when you beat Wales and you've just seen England put in a very impressive performance against the All Blacks, like, what was it like to, number one, first of all, realise you were in a World Cup final, but then also secondly, coming up against, in some people's eyes, the favourites, England, after they'd put in such a impressive performance? Like, what was the kind of mood in the camp going in, heading towards that final against England?
I think obviously we knew it was going to be a challenge. We obviously watched the game the night before we played Wales, and I mean, obviously you saw how well England played, and I think our focus then straight after that was just obviously focusing on Wales and putting in a performance against them to try and get the victory and stick to what we do. And I think after that, the focus straight after that game, the focus went straight from Wales to England, and obviously doing homework and preparing ourselves as best we can. Even though some might have said we weren't the favourites, we sort of just stuck to our own and did our work and sort of just did our preparation the best we could, knowing that the weekend game was going to be tough, and obviously it's the World Cup final, so there's a lot of pressure. And I think we just stuck to ourselves and made sure we covered our bases.
Okay, and was there anything in particular? And I've listened to a few interviews with, say, Eddie Jones, where he said he would have changed personnel, he would have maybe changed one or two things tactically. Like, a lot of people saw that being a 50-50 final, or, as you said, maybe tilting it in the favour of England. Like, was there anything that, even after such an impressive performance against New Zealand, did Razzie, was it Felix, someone else within the coaching ticket, was there kind of an emphasis anywhere? It could even be, say, scrum or somewhere else, where you thought we can really exploit them here if we get our detail right?
I wouldn't really say that all round. Obviously, we saw our England play and an all round good game, and I don't think there was a specific area that we wanted to target to try and exploit them. Obviously, we work extremely hard on our set piece, and the backs obviously work extremely hard on their launches and all of that. And I just think we stuck to what we were doing, and obviously throughout the World Cup, okay, maybe the first game it didn't go as well as we wanted it to, but building up from there, we stuck to what we thought would work, and obviously tweaking one or two things here and there to try and manipulate different things. But I think the main thing was there was clarity. We knew exactly what we wanted to do it, while we were doing it, and I think that contributed to everybody backing in and believing in ourselves.
You find yourself, there was an injury, if I'm not mistaken, maybe after about 20 or so minutes, which found yourself coming on early on in the game in the first half. And like, it was quite quite a physical first 40 minutes. And then kind of in the second half, you guys ran away with it. I think it was also Carl Sinclair went off after a minute or two as well, in which Cole had to come on and replace him. Like, how is it possible to kind of describe how you're feeling, say, those moments before? Was it kind of focus on the job, or even when you knew you'd the game wrapped up with a couple of minutes to go? Like, was it possible to even let yourself get overwhelmed about the actual achievement that you'd accomplished, where you'd won the World Cup, or was it pretty much once the final whistle blew, the whole squad, yourself, that's when you kind of realised the dream and the emotion started to come out?
Yeah, obviously leading up to the game, I was extremely nervous, and obviously when Bongi got hurt, I got even more nervous. But I knew that I had a job to do, so I tried to put that aside and just focus on what my role was and what I needed to contribute to the team. And yeah, I think for me, I just carried on going, obviously until Andre got the ball and kicked it out. I think that's when it finally hit me, and knowing that the side had achieved what it did. And yeah, I don't have words to describe it to you, to be honest. But yeah, it was overwhelming, and I think for me, extremely humbling. And yeah, I think I'll forever stay grateful for that.
Yeah, no, it was truly a remarkable turnaround. As I said, 3 years ago, I even remember being at the Aviva during an Irish South Africa game, and I remember even the media were saying, "Oh, listen, this could be the end of South African rugby," and other terms like this. And then for it to be turned around in 2 or 3 years to you being the best team in world rugby, it's some turnaround. So obviously to be a player of that must have been a incredibly proud, challenging, all the words you can kind of find to describe that
Yeah, yeah.
experience. But how is it then, say, when you come back to South Africa? As I said, the journey you've come on, a lot of people say it's a 4 year journey. You'd been through, different coaches during that 4 year period. But then when you get to come back home, like, how was the response? Like, was this quite overwhelming to seeing? And as I said, you know a lot more than me, Malcolm, but there's obviously a huge history with South African rugby. There's the good and bad side of it. But how kind of proud did it make you and the rest of the squad feel that you kind of united the country in celebration for, a week or two after you managed to win that World Cup?
No, it was unbelievable. Obviously, getting home and seeing all the support, and going on the tour around South Africa, and just seeing the amount of people that came out and just supported. And I think, yeah, I don't think I have words for that either. Like, just seeing how happy everybody was, and speaking to people, obviously once the game was about to start and after the game, what was happening, how happy people were. And I think it was unbelievable. And yeah, seeing people unite again, and obviously stand next to each other. Yeah, it was an unbelievable experience, just seeing everybody just supporting, and being around. And no matter what the situation was, everybody stood behind us, which was so great. And we saw that once we arrived back home, all the support. I'm not too sure if you saw the videos of when the guys arrived, how full the airport was. And yeah, everybody was just ecstatic and so excited. And I think for me as a player, that's extremely humbling, and it's so nice to see what sport could do for the country.
Yeah, no, for sure. And one of the last things I want to cover with you, just Malcolm, is obviously now it's hopefully, I know we're in obviously a strange period with COVID-19, and whether it's sports or even just in general life, it's obviously taken its toll and had an effect on it. With regards to the lines now, it's penciled in anyway for next summer. I know, like yourself or even Dwayne and the likes, there was a lot of South African players, New Zealand players that went over to Japan, played there for a while. Then obviously that got cut short. I know at the moment you and a few other players are kind of weighing up your options. Like, in an ideal world, would you like to see yourself, play in South Africa this year and take part in that line series if it goes ahead? Would that be the ideal
Um,
plan for you?
yeah, well, obviously I'm in negotiations at the moment, and I
Mm.
mean, yeah, I don't really know what's going to happen in the next week or two to see what I will be doing. But obviously, I love South Africa, and I love playing rugby, and ideally, I would like to obviously stay. Well, I wouldn't really say stay. Like obviously, the whole field has changed now due to the virus and everything. You know, so I'm sort of taking it day by day, not really getting ahead of myself. But I would love to play for South Africa again, and obviously, hopefully, one day in the British and Irish Lions too. So yeah, we'll see what happens and where we'll go from here. But yeah, it's obviously a troubling time, and I'm pretty unsure and all of that at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I know it must be a difficult time for negotiations, let alone just trying to live day by day like us all. And I suppose just one of the last things on that, Malcolm, is that very much a decision you're making based off you and your family, or has someone like Razzie or a fellow teammate come in to kind of lend some advice to you on that?
Yeah, I've sort of discussed it with my family and obviously getting advice from the right people, and I think it's important for me. But yeah, like I said before, unfortunately the field has changed now, and we don't know what's happening. Obviously, due to the lockdown, yeah, I don't know when we'll be able to train and stuff like that again. But I'm trying to stay positive and obviously look at the bright side of things. But yeah, I haven't really had influence from anybody in terms of my decision. I think most people know how much I love South Africa and I love playing rugby in South Africa. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the next week or two and see what happens. We'll sort of take it from there.
Okay. And yeah, so Malcolm, that more or less wraps up the formal part of the interview. And how I normally end most podcasts here is just with a quick fire round. It's nothing too tough, don't worry. But yeah, it's a few quick fire questions that got sent on by myself, or I'd even ask as well. So first thing that pops into your head, feel free to shout it back out if that's all right.
Yeah.
So this was asked by someone on Instagram there. It was the toughest player you have ever faced.
Ooh, this is tough. So New Zealanders are tough, Argentinians are tough, South Africans are tough, Australians. It's sort of a broad question. But I think I'd have to say probably a guy like Creevy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uncompromising hooker, yeah. Tough character.
Yep.
Your favourite film of all time?
Ooh, I would probably say maybe American Sniper.
Yeah, good flick. Is that Bradley Cooper, I think it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, good flick. What do you see yourself doing after rugby? And I know it's probably a question you don't want to hear right now, but it was asked by someone and they'd kill me if I didn't ask it.
I think ideally I'd love to coach and stay in the game. But if that opportunity doesn't present itself, I'd like to do possibly property or get into a business and sort of learn the industry. I wouldn't really point out a specific business, but yeah, our first choice would probably get into coaching, and then after that, sort of look for work and sort of learn the tricks of the trade of the industry that I'd be interested in.
Okay. And another peculiar one here. If it's an Irish themed one, someone asked, have you ever tried Guinness? And if so, did you like it?
I love Guinness. In Ireland, I think it was 2017, yeah. Managed to have one or two Guinnesses over there, which was really great, and I do enjoy it.
Right, that's obviously put yourself up in a few people's eyes there with that question and that answer, so fair play. So for the meatheads out there, someone asked, what is your max bench press?
Oh, geez, I haven't done that for a while. To be honest, I couldn't even tell you that now at the moment. When I was younger, I did about 190 around. But yeah, I sort of try to move away from doing the heavier things now and sort of doing the things that make me more agile.
And second last one is the strangest thing you've seen on a rugby pitch.
Was that first hand or on TV?
First hand.
I think there was a game that the Lions played someone in Super Rugby, and I don't know if you know the hooker Akker van der Merwe.
No, I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super Rugby fan here.
Yeah, so he's obviously got his big beard, and
yeah,
I think he went to clean out on another player, and then obviously moving away from that the next minute. Obviously, this is a serious game. You know, one of the guy that carried carried, obviously, had Akker cleaning on him, and the guy, after he placed the ball, he started tickling Akker's beard, like from the bottom, like, like a jokey way. Like, I mean, in the heat of a moment, you think, what's this guy doing? And then afterwards, you think about it. It's actually so funny, just trying to bring a bit of humor onto the pitch. Yeah.
Oh. And lastly, this is the toughest out of them all. A lot of people struggle with this, Malcolm, but describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh, geez, here we go. Now you got me on the spot there, and I've got to think.
I know, it's tough. It's tough.
I would like to say hardworking, committed. I'd say hardworking, committed, and loyal, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah, that more or less wraps it up for us. Malcolm, I want to thank you for coming on, taking time out. I really enjoyed getting to chat to you. And as I said, obviously it's a strange time at the moment, but I hope you and the family stay safe. As I said, I know with the negotiations, hopefully that gets sorted out for you personally soon as well. And yeah, listen, I just want to thank you for being so honest and frank about your experiences up until now. And I'm sure the listeners, when they get around to listen to this, will very much enjoy it, especially when they get to that Guinness answer.
Thanks, Richie. I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on the show.